Hey, welcome back to my channel. I know this is a new setup because I got a new apartment, and at some point I'm definitely gonna change it up because right now I have my bathroom door closed, and that's where my cat's food and litter is, and I want him to have access to that. So don't know why I started out with that, but today I really want to talk about, and this is kind of a continuation of the previous video about recovery accounts, but this is more about the response to these recovery accounts rather than a critique on the recovery accounts themselves. So somehow I was perusing Reddit or the internet, or I honestly, I don't even know how I stumbled upon this, but there's this subreddit called EDRecoverySnark, and it's as bad as it sounds. This entire subreddit is dedicated to posting ED recovery influencers' posts and speculating on whether they're relapsing, and also making snide remarks about their food choices. And I understand the point of this subreddit is to bring awareness to the fact that many recovery accounts border more on pro Anna or pro ED. I don't know if I'm allowed to say pro Anna on YouTube, but I guess we'll find out. But I realize they want to draw attention to this because vulnerable people follow recovery accounts, because if you're trying to recover from an ED, you might want inspiration from other people. At the same time, analyzing every minute detail about somebody's account, or talking about them losing weight, or being like they're not getting better, who's that helping? Because I know it's not helping the person who made that account, and I also have a sneaking suspicion it's not helping the people posting about it on Reddit, because you're obsessing over every detail about somebody's body or somebody's diet. And if you yourself are in recovery from an ED, or you consider yourself recovered, that's not what people with a healthy mindset do. And I say that as someone who knows that I myself don't have a healthy mindset, but at the same time, I try not to harm other people with my ED. And by engaging in this subreddit, ED Recovery Snark, you're not only harming the vulnerable person that has that recovery account, which is a big problem, but you're hurting yourself because you're obsessing over somebody else's body and diet. And ultimately, that's what EDs make you: obsessed with food, obsessed with not only your body, but sometimes other people's bodies. It makes you obsessed with that and analyzing everything, because EDs are all consuming. So I think this subreddit's really harmful in a lot of ways because although it intends to call out pro Anna and pro ED content or content disguised as recovery but is really disordered. The subreddit itself, number one, is harmful to the people it's snarking on, which obviously snark pages do that, but a snark page about ED recovery is really inappropriate. The thing is, we can bring light to these issues. We can talk about how, we can make jokes about ED recovery influencers starter pack, which may include Quest bars and rice cakes and a walking pad. But to call out all these specific creators and to have entire pages dedicated to them, because I don't know what to call it, but on the subreddit there are there are little subreddits, which I don't know anything about Reddit, so please excuse my ignorance. But within the subreddit there are subtitles. You could click on a specific creator's name and then you find all this content about them, and look at their snacks. They're definitely binging and purging, because nobody who doesn't binge and purge eats like this. How are you helping anybody if you're saying that? How are you helping anybody if you're calling out these specific creators that very well might be sick? They very well might have relapsed. Calling them out like that doesn't help them. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. When I was in college, I experienced a pretty severe relapse, and I remember somebody I knew made a subtweet about me talking about how sick and awful I looked. If my content was triggering her, if my content was triggering this person, or if this person found it distressing, they could have blocked me. They didn't have to write that about me, because although they didn't use my name in the post, all of our mutual friends knew exactly who they were referring to. And I was deep in my ED. And this was not this may be a shock to some people, but that was not a wake-up call for me. If anything, it made me sicker. It made me, number one, it validated my ED, being like, oh, what you're doing is working, keep going. And number two, it on the other side of that, it really knocked my self-esteem. And mind you, if somebody has an ED, if they're struggling with food and body image, and they're not only struggling with that, they're struggling with their self-esteem deep down. It goes way beyond just food and body. People with EDs are deeply insecure. There's a deep insecurity that they're just trying to fix. And the thing that they feel like is gonna fix it really just makes it worse. But at the time, it doesn't feel like it. I also want to point out that There is an entire subreddit dedicated to a specific creator. And I was a bit hesitant to mention this because in talking about this, I have to actually mention this creator's name, and I feel uncomfortable because of all the speculation around supposed relapses. But at the same time, I think this subreddit needs to be called out. So it's r/no food rules snark. Now, if you don't know, no food rules is a dietitian that posts about intuitive eating. And a lot of people speculate by her appearance because she has a history with an eating disorder, or at least what I've only seen her ever refer to it as a disordered relationship with food and exercise and her body. So I don't know if she had an ED or if she considers what she had an ED. But anyway, people are speculating that she fell back into old patterns. And in this, they will literally repost pictures of her and be like, look, her wrist bone is hopping out here. To me, that says more about the person posting it than it does about her, because you're hyperfixating on her body. Hyperfixating on people with ED's bodies does not help them. Telling people with EDs they look sick does not help them. That's a known fact. Like, if you look up, and of course, like clockwork, I'm back because I realized I had more to say. But one of the points I wanted to make is, in calling out somebody like no food rules, you can call out things like, one time she posted like that 2 rice cakes with tuna fish on top of it, and edamame on the side could be a good meal. And in case you don't know, that's very ED coded. I don't want to say nobody likes rice cakes, but part of me wonders if anybody really likes rice cakes, or if they're just eating it because it's lower in calories. But anyway, somebody could call out that and be like, hey, I don't think this is the most calorically dense meal, or this meal is not really a meal, it's kind of a snack. Somebody can say that, because there's a difference between that and commenting on her body, or calling her the ED queen, or pointing out that she's got more wrinkles on her face than you would expect of somebody her age. That's just picking somebody apart. And another point I wanted to make is, EDs are not the only thing that can cause weight loss. Like, yeah, if somebody has a history of an ED, that may be the first thing you think about. And it may be true, they may be relapsing. But there are tons of other reasons people could lose weight. People could lose weight from things like cancer, different autoimmune diseases, all different things, stress. sickness, like say you get the flu or something, your appetite may be lower and you may lose weight. Speculating that somebody relapsed, especially publicly. What you want to do in your private time is your business, but if then you're pointing it out online and drawing attention to specific body parts, being like, oh yeah, she looks so sick, look at her ankles. Why are we staring at somebody's ankles? And then they're like, she says she was just certified as a personal trainer. Who would want to be trained by her? If you don't want to go to her as a personal trainer, guess what? Don't. Like, it's that simple. But you don't have to nitpick her body and say, oh, this is motivating me to recover because I don't want to look like that. That's really awful. Really awful thing to say. You're allowed to think it in your head. You can think whatever you want. But to say that out loud on a public platform about somebody, even if you don't like them, even if you get the sense they're a bad person, don't do that. There are so many ways you can critique somebody without stooping to that level. Because think about it, can you imagine if this was you or somebody you cared about and they relapsed and somebody was saying these things about them? Because trust me, as somebody who's been on the other end of this, it hurts. It hurts, and also it at least for me, it ended up triggering me way more. And I got sicker before I decided I needed to get help. And I don't know if this comment had not been made, I might still have delayed getting help. So I can't say that the comment in and of itself delayed my getting help. But what I can say is it didn't inspire me to get help. It didn't make me feel good. I can say the same about the people saying this about the food blogger Half-Baked Harvest. There's a lot of speculation online about her health and her relationship with food. And yeah, some of her content may be triggering. And if that's the case for you, my first piece of advice would be to block this person. But if it's not triggering you, but you're afraid it's gonna trigger somebody else, you can report that content. And yeah, it may not be taken down, but to me, that's the only thing you can do, because in publicly shaming and calling somebody out, if they're really as sick as you believe them to be, how is this helping them? They're not going to be like, oh, everybody's telling me I look scary and I have an ED and I look malnourished and I look like I'm on death's door, so I might as well get help. I don't think anybody with an ED has ever said that. And maybe some people do. But at least for me and for anybody I know that has either had in the past, had an ED or has an ED still, that's not gonna help them. So what are we really doing? Are we just gossiping, or are we actually trying to help people? Because if we're trying to help people, your heart might be in the right place, but your actions are not going to help them. And if you're just gossiping, stop. there are other things you can gossip about that are not somebody's health and somebody's body. Because if you have an ED, you know these are sensitive topics. So why are you harming other people if you wouldn't want somebody commenting on your body like that? And I know people say, well, these are public figures, they're posting these things publicly, so we're allowed to comment. Yes, you're allowed to comment, but why are you commenting about this? Who's it serving? It's not serving the person you're knocking, and it's not serving you either. Oh, I want to look like that then. If that's what being sick looks like, then I want to look like that, which is a whole other issue and something I work on in therapy. I work on myself. My point is, we should all be taking better care of not only ourselves, but each other. Even if you don't like someone, you're allowed to critique people, but critique them in a way that isn't gonna perpetuate harm for them and others. If you look up, oh, I think my friend or my coworker is struggling with an ED, what do I do? No credible source is going to say to you, oh, bring up how sick they look. No, they're gonna be like, I'm worried about you. You seem distressed. You don't seem like yourself lately. They're not going to tell you to bring up their weight or their appearance because that's counterproductive. And these subreddits are counterproductive. And it makes me angry because I know I also hyper-focus on these things, but I don't publicly post it and publicly shame people because I've experienced it. And even if I hadn't, I know that mocking sick people for their illness is disgusting. It's disgusting, okay? And I know somebody's gonna be like, well, so if somebody has an ED or a mental illness or some type of sickness, they can't be held accountable. And that is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is you can hold people accountable for number one, things outside of their illness, or number two, if their illness is causing harm and you think it may be harming vulnerable people. And I know it's not a perfect system because you could report things all day and it may not do anything, but you can report it on social media. You don't have to do a public call out and be publicly speculating that they're relapsing. That's terrible. And by the way, having a relapse or having an ED does not make you a bad person. Okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Just because someone has an ED does not mean they're a bad person. And I feel like these subreddits are insinuating that by having an ED, they're bad people. But they're not. They're sick people that need help, and publicly shaming them is not going to get them help. And anybody who's experienced an ED knows that. So I don't know why anybody's participating in these subreddits. Well, I do know why, and that's the problem. So I'm gonna hop off my soapbox now. Thank you for watching, I guess. And I hope this resonated with somebody. And if you are on that subreddit, please, no, I'm not saying you're a disgusting person, but what I am saying is engaging in this behavior is not good, it's not helpful. So please, instead of watching this and getting offended or getting bent out of shape or feeling attacked, please just consider that, yeah, this might not be the best way to go about things. People's EDs are not up for speculation, especially not publicly. Thank you.